I have given my team my brain. They know how I think because I've taught all of them to know how I think, but they put their own spin on it. And it's also great for me because I can't do the things some of my team members do. I can't talk the way some of my team members do. And so it's so great to be able to delegate different things that people are really good at. Like,
Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and as per usual, we have an amazing guest to share with you today. Her name is Emma, and she is an Instagram engagement strategist and expert who is just dishing up all of her knowledge about how you can engage with your ideal customers on Instagram in a way that feels intentional, in a way that drives genuine connection, and in a way that doesn't really feel that salesy. She shares so many amazing tips. You'll hear me say that I think I should probably hire her for Feel Good Social in the future, so let's see if that happens. But anyway, I know you're absolutely going to adore this conversation and glean so much out of it. I cannot wait to share it with you. But before we dive in, I just want to remind you that if you love this episode and the Feel Good Social podcast in general, please take a moment and leave us 5 stars or a kind review because we truly, truly appreciate you and love to hear from you. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram. I am at Feel Good Social. Give me a follow and send me a message letting me know that you came from the podcast, and I will totally give you a follow back and just continue sending love your way over there. All right, let's dive into this awesome conversation with this amazing woman. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Emma, thank you so much for coming on the Feel Good Social podcast, lady. I'm so excited to bring you on the show.
hi, Kinsey. I am so freaking excited to be here and chat with you on this lovely hot summer afternoon.
Yes, lady. And I love your enthusiasm. You have a lot more energy than I do right now, and I am totally going to vibe off of that. I already did introduce you a little bit in the intro, but I would love to hear from your mouth. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Yes. So my name is Emma. I am the CEO of Right Hand Glam, the engagement agency. So what used to be a one-woman show is now a 6-woman empire. We mostly serve scaling service providers and coaches. However, over the past, I would say, year and a half, we have gone way beyond that. So we have yoga studios, we have a soda company, we have a podcast for a football team. You name it, we'll do it. We're very big on vibes, and that's how we determine whether or not we're a good fit for someone, which I know some people are like, Emma, that's a crock of shit. No, that's just how it works for us. So we are engagement strategists, meaning that every day we log into our clients' accounts, we pretend to be them, and we sell their stuff, which is like the short, easy way that I explain it to people who don't quite know what it is, aka the people in my day-to-day life. But on a more strategic level, we are having conversations that will hopefully convert for you, building intentional relationships that lead to converting conversations to cash, as we say. So we focus on growing our clients' audience, building authentic connections, and running with it from there. And I have just seen again and again, just beautiful things come out of it. If it's not a sale, it might be a podcast guest. It might be making a new best friend. It might be going to someone's retreat, you name it. There are so many different beautiful ways conversations can evolve. And that's why for me, like, the sale is not the most important part of it. It's truly the connection.
Oh man, this is going to be such a great topic and show. I know it will, just because Oh, it is so important to engage in that really genuine way that is not only effective for your business and strategic for your business, but also being able to drive that deeper connection and brand loyalty, the bigger picture. And thank you so much for giving us permission that like sales are not the only thing. Like it's not always the most important thing that can come out of this stuff. And it's all about the whole picture and really valuing those things that aren't necessarily money in your bank account at this moment, but that might drive it in the future or just improve your life in general.
People all the time that my favorite response that I actually get from people in the DMs is maybe later, because the longer clients are with us, the more data we compile. So if someone says to you, I'm going to be ready 6 months from now, we have that data. So we can continue that relationship, cheer that person on, encourage them. And then sometimes all it takes is one message that's a check-in. Hey, how have you been? We haven't talked in a couple months. For them to be like, oh my God, now is the time. I've seen clients that I've worked with go from 11K to 47K in a matter of weeks in a launch just by doing that, just by having that data in your back pocket. And that's why I always encourage people, whether you're working with us, whether you're working with any engagement strategist, don't give up because you're quote unquote not seeing the return on investment, aka making sales right away, even in a 3-month period, because it truly is a long game. People are slower to buy than ever before. And so if you want it, you got to work for it. And that means a lot of time. We have clients that stay with us 9 to 12 months, and those are the people that get the most out of it.
Oh, so many things here. And I love that you say it's the long game because, too, I think that firstly, for like entrepreneurs who are just starting out, who have to put themselves out there and sell for themselves in the very like first beginning of it and all that stuff, like it is so scary to like just show up and start selling this thing that you've created all of a sudden, even if you know it's valuable, even if you know it works. And I've seen so many people, I've chatted with so many people who just get shut down by the first no. Yeah. And just it rips them apart. It feels bad. It feels scary. It feels like you failed, but that's not. We're just having this permission from you that yes, it is the long game. And sometimes people aren't ready, and that's okay. And they love it when you come back and check back in with them later. They can be ready later. And sometimes I think, I don't know, tell me what you think, but sometimes I think those sales are the most valuable because like you said, the more you can spend time with someone and build someone's trust over time, then the more likely they are to probably be like a more loyal fan, right? A more loyal customer or like a deeper customer.
I completely agree. So this might surprise people, but I don't actually do lead generation on my own account. I just don't have time. And by the time I do have time, I'm just so tired from being other people that like, I don't even want to be me. I just want to like go away, go on TikTok, like read my book. Just I don't want to do it. So I am very engaged with my community. I talk to my people. My DMs are always full, but I don't often do the process that I do for my clients for me. And what I see time and again is people who have been in my community for a long time, year, 2 years, 3 years, finally come around when they're ready. And I also see people that invest in one of our lower tier options and they go away for a few months and they're like, you know what? I need you to do the whole shebang. And that's, I think, just something really powerful about our brand and our presence and our team culture. I have people that are like begging me to hire them. And I'm like, I just don't need to hire right now. If I did, we could have this conversation. And it's just something that I'm so proud of, that we have created this space where people feel comfortable taking their time and they know that I'm going to be as excited as they are when their time has come. And I love that people just want to be a part of it and stay a part of it for as long as they do. And even clients of mine, like I got a message the other day from a client of mine that I no longer work with. And she was like, I just want you to know that all of this work that you did months ago, like, is finally paying off. And I was like, there it is. Like, it's right there. You're not even working with me anymore, but you are still seeing the results of that work just because we stayed consistent and we stayed the course and you had patience with it all.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. And man, I feel like there's so much there too. Just as an entrepreneur, it is so nice to step into that CEO role and realize, okay, what do I need to make a priority, and what do I need to push myself to do in my business? And what do I need to realize that I am either not the best at this, and or it's not great for my mental health to do this for myself, and or I just don't have the brain power to manage this or navigate this right now. And at what point do I need to hand something off? I actually totally did that with like my own podcast and editing my own podcast, because I was doing it for a good year. And can I do it? Yes. And did I realize that I just cannot let go of like over editing things? And also like it drains me and makes me hate my own voice and makes me feel like more like mentally. I feel like the same thing can be said about engagement sometimes too. I'm like talking to you right now. I'm like, oh shoot, now I need to hire Emma.
We have plenty of openings coming up for September. So call me, baby.
Look into that.
Would love to chat further about that. I definitely agree. And in an age where people are afraid of selling and being sold to, it can be really helpful to have someone else do it for you so you don't second guess yourself. Because so many people are afraid to send that message about a sale. And the way that we try to go about it is never to be like direct about it. So one of my favorite things is we give our clients polls every week to drive data in the moment. And someone will respond to something like, oh, I've been putting off my email newsletters, and say the client is a copywriter. So I'll slide in and be like, I saw your poll response. Do we need to talk? Like double eye emoji. And people will laugh, but then they'll engage with it because it's not a direct pitch. It's following up on something that they already indicated interest in a way that is interesting and won't be as off-putting. And I think that's what people miss. It's not black and white. There is a giant gray area. And engagement is something that is very intuitive. People all the time are like, can you just come up with a formula for me of what I respond? Just write scripts for everything. And I'm like, no, actually I can't, because you never know what someone's going to say. You never know how someone's going to react to something. So you just have to feel it out in the moment. And that's why it's something that is a muscle that has to be worked. It's a practice, just like anything else. You get better at it over time. Granted, there are people that are naturally better at it from the get-go. People who have theater backgrounds, people who are influencers, they tend to be really good at it from the start. Even introverts write themselves off. Most of our clients are introverts, but we also have some really introverted people on our team, and we just play to their strengths because their strengths tend to be more logical solutions, more step-by-step solutions, versus the crazy people like me who are very out there and very loud and very energetic. And that is something that a different kind of client needs. And I think that's also speaking to the power of an agency, which is not the route for everyone. And it's not even something I would recommend to people. Don't do this. Don't do what I did. It is chaos all of the time. But you also get to help a lot of people.
Definitely. Man, I have so many questions for you, and I'm like having trouble deciding which one I want to ask. I know. Oh man. And I love that you brought around to introverts, because exactly I actually am way more introverted than I realized. But back in my college days and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I can talk to people. And I totally am do love my alone time. I think that's why I actually really enjoy engaging with my audience on Instagram and on social media, because firstly, there's that third wall there. So it's not, oh God, we're in the room together and this is so awkward. But also because it is more of a one-on-one conversation, which I absolutely love. But anyway, man, that is so cool. So with your team, do you assign different team members to different clients based on if you have a team member who's an introvert and you have a client that is maybe a little bit more of a introverted feeling brand or communicating brand or something is that how you do that? Or I'm just so interested in how you profile your clients and their personalities and then are able to interact with their ideal customers in a way that feels genuine. And my concern as a client, I think, would be, are you going to actually sound like me, and or are you going to portray a personality that then they meet me and it's, who is this person? You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. So I'll start and go backwards. The complaint we get the least is about voice. I very rarely see things about voice pop up in our Slack channel. And if it does, it's, hey, use this word instead of this word. We have had many a client say to us, I did a double take because I thought I sent that and then realized I didn't and that it was you. And I think that just really sums up what working with us is like. We are very intentional. with how we communicate with our clients. Every client starts off with a get to know you questionnaire. So we're already looking at things in their voice. And those are things that we can copy and paste as like conversation starters, conversation continuers. We really try to touch every aspect of their life that we regularly see people ask questions about. And then if they have specific concerns about voice, I typically, if we are working with women of color, I definitely want to sit down and have a deeper conversation about language and what words we're using, because the majority of our team is white. And so if I am working with a woman of color, anybody on our team that is not a woman of color, I want to make sure that we have that voice down and we have the permission to say certain things and be certain ways so we can accurately reflect their personality without getting into any stereotypes. So that's something that's super important to me. And then in terms of how we split things up on our team. So the first thing that I do is make sure that nobody has two of the same type of client. So if I have one copywriter, I cannot have a second. It needs to go to someone else because no one on our team overlaps except for Chloe, who is our director of strategy. She handles all of our monthly calls with our clients. Most people don't book monthly calls because all we do all day is talk to our clients so they know exactly what's going on. So very rarely do those calls happen. But there's so many people that like she doesn't even maintain any of that information. She's on the call, she drops it in Slack, she moves on with her life. So if I have a copywriter, someone else on the team is going to get assigned a copywriter. So that's the first thing. How we assign people first is dependent on availability. Who has the availability? If I know for certain that there is someone on the team that I really want with a specific person, I will ask the client to hold off on starting until they have an opening. Because some people, I know that they've been waiting to do this for a really long. I know what kind of expectations they have. I know the way they talk because I've talked to them so much. I know how they want to come off or how they don't want to come off. I usually don't have to do sales calls like most people. We just have these conversations in the DM. So it's very easy for me to get a sense of what someone needs. So I do really try to match people up based on where they're at in their business. So like I had someone who I just onboarded yesterday and she was like, I might be exploring new parts of my business. I also need to get to a point where I want to be hands off with this. And I was like, great, we're going to put you with Felly because she's also a marketing mentor. So she can talk you through changes in your business as they come up. But also you want to be straight to the point, no fluff. And you don't want to have the conversations about your cats and your kids. So Felly will help you in getting right to the point. And she takes a very holistic view of things. Then I know that if someone is more of a formulaic client, this especially goes for our fitness instructors that we work with, where we're really like pitching first class free sort of thing and then following up and putting people through a specific funnel, I'll put them with Lauren because Lauren is really good at funnels. And then if anybody needs someone bubbly, they go with Whitney. And then if they need someone who is a little more soft, a little more, I don't want to say intentional in the way that the rest of our team is not intentional, but just like heartfelt intentional, like really good with people who are soul-centered. Then they go with Shelby. And then there's Chloe and I, who I think are the biggest chameleons. We've been doing this the longest. And so we can jive with everybody. But what I also love about having an agency structure is that if someone is not vibing, all we have to do is move them to a different person. And then normally we find a really good fit and we can talk with the client and be like, okay, here's what was not working. Here's where it wasn't aligned. Here's who we have and why we think it'll be aligned. And we actually have done this recently. We had one client that we wanted to switch around and it's working out great.
Yeah. Ooh, man. I love that. Because what I'm hearing from you is that you are not only focusing on like your clients' strategies and your clients' personalities and all that, obviously, but you're also really, we haven't talked about agencies a lot on this podcast specifically, but it's really playing into your team members' strengths, understanding their personalities as well, and having them mix and match with different clients based on both of their strengths and their needs. That is such a great way to do it. Instead of trying to, I feel like quite a few agency owners and whatnot will run and even online coaches who have coaches under them and whatnot. They want to train their team members on their specific like strategies, on their specific way of doing things. You have to do it this way. You have to be another, like an imitation of me because I'm the head of this agency and like I started this. And so learn how to do what we're doing my way. And for you, which I so admire, and you're just such a genius, is playing up your team members' strengths and individual personalities. And that's so cool that it also works so that if a client and a team member is not necessarily meshing, you don't lose the client. Oh my goodness, so smart. Ugh.
Finding the solutions that work for everybody, because normally the client isn't the only one feeling it. It's the person on the team that's feeling it too. And we've reached a point, because we've been in agency for so long, that people are coming in knowing that they're not going to work with me. But something my business coach and I have talked a lot about lately is how
today's episode is sponsored by our brand new podcast, Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs. If you love the Feel Good Social podcast, I know you are going to love this new show where we explore how we can leverage the power of AI technology without wasting our time or selling our souls. Together, we'll dive headfirst into the world of AI for solopreneurs and unlock the secrets to saving time, boosting productivity, and upleveling your business with the help of AI, all while staying true to yourself and your brand. Are you ready to unlock the full potential of AI and revolutionize your business? Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. Let's embrace making AI work for you.
I have given my team my brain. They know how I think because I've taught all of them to know how I think, but they put their own spin on it. And it's also great for me because I can't do the things some of my team members do. I can't talk the way some of my team members do. Chloe handles all of our LinkedIn engagement. So when we have LinkedIn clients, I am not the one that is even facilitating. Like, I'm selling them on it, but when they need to get the dirty details, I'm like, you're going to go talk to Chloe because I have no clue what this is about. I know that this is an aspect of our business that people love, that thrives, and I'm just not the one that knows how to do it. And so it's so great to be able to delegate different things that people are really good at. Like, we have one of our team members, Lauren, is literally in Italy, but she handles all of our Philly-based clients. And she knows Philly and she's never been here. And it's so funny to me, but she does such a good job with it. And her clients are constantly singing her praises because she has made her way around the metaphorical block with Philly. And it's great that I can be like, yeah, we have a Philly expert on our team. You're local. I'm in Philly, but you're not going to work with me. You're going to work on the person on my team that specializes in Philly, even though she's in Italy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. That is hilarious. I love this. Would you mind if we got into a little bit more of the back end details of like how you run your agency and how you've grown it and whatnot? I'm very interested in like how many clients each of your team members can take on and whatnot and all the different stuff.
My whole theory is just if we're booked out and we have people waiting in the wings, we just hire someone else. That's always how it's been. I had no intention of growing into an agency. I didn't even really know when I started that this whole side of the world existed. So what happened to me was I was like the only one really doing it and doing it the way that I was doing it. And so when I started out, we were actually serving clients for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. And I only had 3 clients that were with me long term. And people would come back, but we would be like months ahead booked out for these spots. And we really worked with a lot of influencers, I would say, at the time. This is 2020. And then I found out that this whole thing existed and I started learning more about it. And I ended up hiring 2 team members at the time. And then 6 months later, we relaunched Hand Glam as what it is now. So we're looking at June 2021. And that's when we really started positioning ourselves as an agency, even though it was already happening. So I had 4 team members at that time. And that's when Chloe came on with us. And now she is completely full-time. So she is our director of strategy and operations. And so she is a step below me. And she handles overseeing our team, which obviously I do as well, but also overseeing the strategy for all of our clients, making sure everything's okay. If it's not, she brings it to me. But most of the time, she handles triage in the moment. Not that there's a lot of it. It happens to all of us. And then we have 4 other engagement strategists. And then we have 1 other person on our team that just helps us with some tasks here and there every month. Not necessarily a VA, but does some stuff for us, which is helpful because I just don't have time to do it. And we have actually had a really loyal team. A lot of people on our team have been with us for a really long time. In terms of how much each team member works, I am all about meeting them where they're at. So if they're like, I only want this number of clients, okay, cool. You're only going to have that number of clients. And then sometimes they come to me and they're like, hey, like starting this month, I'm happy to take on more clients. Or can I have partial clients, which are on our 1.5 hour package versus our 2.5 hour package? So they all have a different number of clients. And then if we have someone come in and I'm like, hey, I think this would be a good fit for you. Do you want one more? Could you work with one more? They'll be honest with me. And I had someone that just came in and we just onboarded and they all said no. They said, I don't want another client. I said, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll put her somewhere. And we did. And we have her somewhere and it's going to be a great place for her. But I always want them to feel good about their job and feel excited about their job. And if they're burnt out, something needs to change. If they come to me and they're like, listen, this client is leaving, please do not replace them. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I have no problem with the overall profit for the month dipping to keep my team sane. Peace over profit always.
Ooh, I love that. Peace over profit. And are you hiring them as full-time employees at this point, or are they mostly
So we
part-time?
have one full-time employee. Chloe is our full-time employee, and everybody else is a 1099 contractor, except for our international friends. We have, like I said, Lauren is in Italy, Feli is in France. But I actually, someone yesterday, one of my students inside the Engagement Academy was like, I'm like freaking out about expanding. Like, I feel like I'm lying and it's like white labeling if I bring someone on my team. And I'm like, it's all about how you position it. If you set the expectation from the get-go that they're going to be working with someone on your team, you're fine. And she was like, okay, should I hire them as an employee or like a contractor? I feel like contractor equals white labeling. And I was like, my love, do not hire a full-time employee. It is chaos. There are so many things I have gotten, and like people who follow me know this, I have gotten screwed this past year, left and right, a million times over by my accountant. He is no longer my accountant, but things were so bad that I have a new accountant now. And she was like, if you did not come to me when you did, I could not have salvaged this. That's how bad it was. I got hit with a $10,000 tax bill in May on my way to the airport to London. Hell, when you have a full-time employee, we are now an S Corp. So I pay into, for myself and Chloe, Medicare, Social Security, and unemployment. And I pay very transparently like $2,000 a month for the two of us. And then on top of that, we have our regular W-2 withholdings, our regular quarterly payments. It costs a lot of money to have a full-time employee. And yes, ultimately you're setting yourself up for success in the future to have Medicare, to hopefully be able to access Social Security when the time comes. Questionable, but have it. It's a lot. And if you are not prepared for it, not educated about it, which I was not, it is extremely stressful. So if you are someone who is thinking about growing an agency, think long and hard about whether or not you can actually handle having a full-time employee. Because on top of that, then you also need to have conversations about salaries. And Chloe also happens to be one of my best friends. We have grown to be best friends from working together. We were not friends before we met and before she started working for the team. But now when things get hard and things happen and one of us mess up in business, or like we have to have a serious conversation about money, then like we have to take friend hats off and put business hats on. And we get sad and we cry about it. We talk it out and we feel it out. And we make sure to leave the divide that this isn't personal. This isn't a me and you thing. This is very much a business thing, but it is hard, especially if you are close with your team members, especially if your team is not that big, especially if you are not ready or you are not making a certain amount of money. Don't hire a full-time employee because it's hard.
Yes. Thank you for being so open about that. And I am glad that we went there with the conversation because I think that, I think it's confusing and scary and weird and awkward for a lot of people to think about growing a team of any sort and what do I want this to look like? And I love that you brought the mindset part of it into the equation when it's like, do I feel like I'm being honest and transparent and authentic if I'm like bringing on a contractor but calling her a part of my team and like white labeling, all that different stuff. Thank you for giving us those permission slips and just explaining it so transparently. I think that too, that makes it so much easier to have those open and honest conversations with people when you have nothing to hide. I think that entrepreneurship would be so much easier if we could all just let go of feeling like we need to be something or show up in some way and instead just be real with each other, right?
I went on a rant about this when Threads dropped and everyone was like, Threads is not the place I can be myself. And I'm like, okay, pause for a second here because it's all the same people, right? Like you clicked the follow all of my followers button And so we're literally talking about all of the same people here. You are in a community with all of the same people. Why couldn't you say those things? And then people were like, oh, like I had to make content and it had to look pretty. And I'm like, okay, you could have gone on your stories and typed something out. You could have used your notes app and screenshotted it. So many people do. This fake permission, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Just say what you want to say. We are too old for this. I'm 25, which puts me on the younger end of the spectrum of people who have online businesses. And I'm over this. I'm too old for this. So if I'm too old for this, everybody else is too old for this. And I think it's super important too with the money conversation. Because you can do the math. If you know how many clients someone has, or you can guess how many clients someone has, you can do the math at what they're making. And I love when women talk about money. I think we should talk about money more. I think we should talk about how much we're making. And on top of that, though, asterisk, be transparent about that is not what we take home. So at the end of last year, and some people in my life felt a way about this, but I did it with intention. I posted how much we grossed last year and made sure to say, this is gross. And then now, as I have these conversations about having a full-time employee and all the things I pay into, I really hope that people understand that emphasis on that is the gross number. What I personally take home is much less than that because my team alone costs me probably 10 to 12 grand a month. So you can all do the math.
Yeah, no,
That's my team. And there are other things that we pay for as business owners, right? There's a lot of things that we pay for. Make as much money as you think they are. Even like the top of the top.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. I was just having that conversation with a woman I interviewed last week too about just like the number, like the big promises of the numbers and how into numbers we all are and how easy it is to misinterpret numbers, even though it's supposed to be hard data because we forget to think about all the things. And thank you so much for saying that about threads, because I went through the exact same thing where and also it's okay, cool. If you feel like you can be yourself on threads,
I'm so happy you have that space. Great. I'm thrilled for you. But also, why couldn't you have done this the whole time?
If that's a gateway platform for you to being authentic everywhere else in your business and life, great. Lean into that. And please think about and realize that, yes, you can be authentic on threads and you can be authentic in all the other places too.
Because people do care and people want to know who you are. You look at TikTok and all of these content creators and they've gotten to where they are just by being themselves. And they sell shit every day and they just sell it differently than we do. We're selling our own products and services. They're typically selling someone else's, but they're still making money off of that, whether it be an ad eligible for commission. Even when they do a collab with a brand and it's like Meredith Duxbury, who's one of the biggest beauty influencers, she just did this huge collab with Morphe. Yes, she's going to be making a ton of money off of it and it's her collection, but ultimately it's Morphe's collection. So they're the ones making money off of it. And so I just don't understand why every day we sit there, sometimes for hours, and watch other people be unabashedly authentic. And we're so afraid to do it ourselves. And so many people on threads too were like, I didn't say anything because I didn't think it was worth it because the algorithm is so messed up. Who would read it anyway? And it's okay, but you're willing to do that on an app where we don't even know what the algorithm is because it doesn't have one yet. The math is not mathing.
Oh man, yes, and more yeses. Okay, actually, this is a great transition as well because I love how I could talk with you all day, lady, but I also definitely want to glean some of those like amazing sales tips that you have. Mm-hmm. And I love what you said earlier about how it's not a copy paste script. If you want to have conversations, make genuine connections, make more sales in the most effective, strategic, and genuine way that feels good to you, like it has to be a like on your toes situation where you're reacting, you're literally being human and conversing. So tell us like some of your best tips for getting comfortable having those conversations, for being able to read people or maybe transition into the sales pitch in a way that doesn't feel as scary. Because I know that's just like such a big thing for so many people.
Yeah, polls are always my best advice for where to start. You are allowing space for people to tell you exactly what they need. And oftentimes people are, for some reason, weird about like just messaging you and being like, yes, I'm interested. So I always say bring the party to the people. So polls allow you to close that gap where you are giving people options. They're choosing to answer because we all know how easy it is to skip through a poll. We do it all the time. I do it too. But when people are stopping to engage with those polls, that's when we need to have a conversation. So you can slide in and you can be like, hey, I saw that you responded to these polls. What are you thinking right now? Do we need to have a conversation? What do you want to know? I also always say to people, the party isn't over just because someone left you on red. So if you're having a conversation with someone and it starts to transition into business and you say something that is along the lines of a pitch and they don't answer, think about all of the reasons why you don't answer a text message or you don't respond to a DM or an email or a million other things. Life happens. So don't be afraid to message that person again and be like, hey, just checking in. Because especially with all of the mompreneurs in our space, like a kid throws up, the dog needs to go out. Oh, it's pickup time. Like there are a million different things that people have to do during the day, whether they're a mom or not. It just is harder for moms. So don't be afraid to reach back out. I always say track your data, know who you've talked to and when and what you've talked to them about. So that way, when the time comes where they said, follow up with me, actually follow up with them. Another one of my favorites that is just makes it right out of the gate, easy to talk about business. If you're someone who uses a service guide, follow up with people on Instagram who have downloaded your service guide, because my whole theory is that we're just using Instagram as the medium. You can use any platform as the medium, but here we are using Instagram as the medium. The same goes if you have a product with access to an abandoned cart. Don't hesitate to follow up with people who abandoned their cart. Hey, saw you were checking out, insert name of product here. Just wanted to see if you had any questions that I could answer for you. Again, how many times are you online shopping and you leave something in your cart and then you completely forget about it? And then you get a little email from them saying, hey, you left this in your cart. And you're like, oh shit, I did leave that in my cart. It's the same exact thing, except there's no massive corporation behind you with a whole team of email strategists who are able to handle that data and do that.
Yes. And just, I do think that just so much of business is mindset and just reminding yourself again and again, you can do this. It's nothing bad against you. It doesn't mean anything against you. It's actually helpful for the people, just like continually being able to pull those cards out of your back pocket that remind you, yeah, if someone ghosts you when you're starting to sell to them, it probably most likely doesn't mean that they're not interested. Like definitively, it doesn't mean that they're not interested. If we could just stop making assumptions about our ideal customers in our businesses, I feel like that would just make everything so much better too.
We also need to stop making all of these rules, which like, I don't want to keep talking about threads, but like one of the things that pissed me off was like day one of threads, everyone was like, here's what you're allowed to do and here's what you're not allowed to do. And I feel somewhere along the way, people set rules for Instagram. And so as more and more people enter the space, they just think that those are the rules and they don't have to be the rules. Who decided that you're not supposed to sell to people? Who decided that selling is weird? Who decided that we need to play this long drawn out game and that your privacy is being invaded by someone messaging you? You literally go to a website and put your email in once and then they email you for eternity. And how many of us are too lazy to hit unsubscribe, right? We just keep getting the emails and deleting them. And it's, I never read these. I never will, but I don't hit unsubscribe, right? We need to start thinking about, let me put it this way. It is not black and white, corporate, and what we do. There are plenty of things that are interchangeable. I try to teach my fiance things all of the times that he can use in his corporate job because what we do is actually not that different at its core, even though we just have very different ways of doing it and we serve very different people. He's serving Fortune 500 companies and I am serving who I am serving. But there are rules from corporate, I think, that can transfer over very easily. And we are just so, corporate ruined my life, which like for a lot of us it did, myself included. Corporate ruined my life, so I don't want to look at any of that. And I don't want to be a bro marketer like they do in corporate, but you're not. I think people are mixing up bro marketing and selling. Those are two very different things. You will not have a successful business if you don't sell. You need money. That's the whole reason we did this, to make more money. I always say that we all started our businesses for some form of freedom. And money is one of those forms of freedom. And you can't make money unless you sell. So if you don't want to do it, great, come knocking on my door. I'll freaking do it for you. That's the whole point of me being here.
I love it so much. And yes, and everything you're saying just makes so much sense. It's something we need to hear again and again, because not only do people make rules about Instagram and selling, but all of these rules just go back to the way that we were brought up and how we naturally act in the world and how we react to authority, how we're supposed to react to authority and whatnot. And so it's hard. It really is hard to make these mindset shifts and all of this different stuff. But it's one of those things that, like, if you hear something that you adore that Emma is saying right now, write that on a Post-it note, put it next to your desk. Remind yourself again and again.
In someone else's DMs for a client. We were talking about Post-it notes and like putting them in different places. I think all in all, Age of Barbie, where everybody is talking about all of the life lessons of Barbie, and like we're going through this like collective healing as women, and like we have had this come to Jesus of sorts about what it means to be a woman and all of the things that we deal with. And because the online space is women, I think we are carrying over some of that trauma of being told to stay quiet. And that's why we're afraid to sell, because we were not able to be loud in our corporate spaces most of the time because we are women. And so we've carried that trauma over with us. And now we're afraid to do it in a space that is women, right? In a sense, the online space is Barbie land because women are making the rules for the most part, and women are deciding things. And if you wanted to put people like Shannon McKinstry on the Supreme Court, that's our Supreme Court of women. And I think people like Jared Bean and Jasmine Starr, like all of those names that we know, those are our Barbie Supreme Court. And I could take this analogy on and on, but like, why are we holding on to those parts of ourselves that we're conditioned to play small when, like I said earlier, we are making the rules? If we're making the rules, that means we get to decide as each day goes on what we subscribe to, what we don't, what we want to change. And it can only change if we have these conversations.
Yes. And it can only change if you make that executive decision for yourself too, right? That's what I remind myself every day. I say, I'm making the executive decision to go to the grocery store right now for one thing. Like I'll say, I'm making this executive decision because like I'm deciding it. It's what's good for me right now. And yes, or this is my opinion and it may not be my opinion tomorrow, but that's okay.
It is. And that is what I am running with.
Yeah. Yes. But oh man, lady, I have loved everything that you've been dishing up for us in this conversation. I do like to ask sometimes people at the end of these conversations, like, is there anything that you're being called to share right now? One last little send off message that you want to share with my folks.
Just stop apologizing. Stop living in the shoulds, because there are none. If we make the rules, there should be no shoulds aside from you should do what feels right. And we all get to make our own rules for how we do those things. And as long as nobody is getting hurt in the process, freaking run with it. Just do what lights you up. Come back to your why, what freedom you were seeking, and do what it takes to get that. And most of the time, what it takes to get that is just being you.
Oh, I know my feel good listeners are just going to eat that up. So thank you for sharing that. Can you also share how everyone can find you and connect with you? Because I know they'll definitely want to do that.
Yes, Instagram. Hello. That's where I live. That's where I breathe. I'm like not other places. Like I'm on TikTok, but it's like just for my fun self. Like I just do me things. I don't really do business things there. So at Right Hand Glam, your right hand glam, on Instagram, righthandglam.com. We make it nice and simple to reach us. Emma at righthandglam.com if email is your jam. I do always like to say that my DMs are open. I'm always here to chat. It doesn't have to be about business. It can just be about life. Sometimes people just need someone to lend an ear, and I'll be honest if I can do it that day or not, because it all depends on how we're feeling, and boundaries are important, but DMs are open, and I'm here to continue any of these conversations and keep going down whatever rabbit holes it takes us.
Yes. Thank you again so much, Emma. This was so great.
Thank you for having me.
How awesome was Emma? You guys, she just kept dishing up all of the good stuff for us. And I absolutely loved this conversation. And I know that you did too. So if you did, make sure that you connect with both of us on Instagram. She is at Right Hand Glam. I am at Feel Good Social. We would both love to hear from you and connect with you over there. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, my friend. And I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.